The heavy wooden doors of the family court closed behind me, and for a moment the hallway felt too small for the amount of anger in my chest. My name is Claire Thompson, and I had just spent 8 months fighting for primary custody of my 2 kids, Emma and Jacob. The judge, in a calm voice that made me want to scream, had just said the words I dreaded: shared custody. My ex-husband, Ryan, walked a few steps behind me, clutching the stack of papers like some kind of prize. To everyone else, he looked like the calm, reasonable father: pressed shirt, quiet tone, respectful answers. They didn't see the nights he stayed out, the way he dismissed my worries, how he made me feel like I was crazy when I begged him to be present. None of that counted enough for the court. At the end of the hallway, I stopped and turned around. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and there was a security guard by the metal detector, a clerk behind glass, and him, Ryan, looking at me like he wanted to say something that would make it all better. He had no right to that look. He walked closer. "Claire, this doesn't have to be a war," he said softly. "We can make this work. For the kids." Something in me snapped. All the months of lawyers, fees I couldn't afford, late night crying on the bathroom floor, and then the judge's decision crashing over me like ice. My voice came out low and steady, almost too calm for what I felt. "You think you won today?" I asked. "You think that paper means you suddenly became Father of the Year?" "It's not about winning," he replied. "They need both of us." I stepped closer, so close I could see the tiny scar on his chin from college, the one I used to kiss. The past felt like a bad joke. "You will never see your kids again," I whispered. "Not really." "Not as their father." The words left my mouth before my brain could process them, but once they were out, they felt like a decision. I turned, pushed the door open, and walked into the sunlight before he could answer. Outside, the air was cold, but my skin was burning. On the drive home, my phone buzzed with messages from friends. How did it go? What did the judge say? I ignored them. I kept seeing Emma's face in my mind, the way she clung to me the night before and asked, "Mommy, will I have to live without you?" I had promised her I would never let that happen. Shared custody felt like breaking that promise, even if I knew, rationally, that the court saw it differently. That night, I watched the kids sleep in my small rental house. Emma's hair was spread over the pillow, Jacob's fist wrapped around a toy truck. I thought about the judge saying that children benefit from frequent and continuing contact with both parents, about how the law talked about best interests like it was a formula. None of those people had watched Ryan forget school events, leave his phone on silent while I handled everything, or laugh when I said I was overwhelmed. I sat at the edge of my bed, staring at the custody order. Shared holidays. Alternating weekends. Exchange times and locations typed in neat lines. I felt like I had lost control over the one thing that mattered most. Somewhere between desperation and fear, a thought appeared and refused to leave. If the system wasn't going to protect them the way I believed it should, maybe I had to do it myself. Friday came faster than I expected. According to the order, I was supposed to drop Emma and Jacob off at 5 p.m. in the parking lot of the public library across town. A neutral location. Neutral. As if anything about handing over your kids to someone you no longer trust could ever feel neutral. The kids were restless all day. Emma asked 1,000 questions. "Will you be there when I come back? What if I miss you? Can I call you?" Jacob, only 5, just followed her around, sensing the tension without understanding it. Around 3 p.m., I sat at the kitchen table, the custody order spread out in front of me again. The words blurred. Every sensible part of me knew what I was supposed to do: follow the order, show up on time, try to co-parent like all the pamphlets and websites suggest. But there was another part of me, louder, screaming that I was about to hand over my children to a man who, in my eyes, had never really put them first. What if he forgot them somewhere? What if he let them ride without seatbelts again, like he did that one time he laughed off? What if he badmouthed me in front of them, slowly poisoning them against me? The scenarios spiraled in my mind until my heart pounded so hard I thought I might faint. At 4 p.m., I texted him, "Emma has a stomachache. I don't think it's a good idea for her to go this weekend." It wasn't entirely a lie. She had said her stomach hurt earlier, though I knew it was mostly nerves. He replied almost immediately, "If she's sick, I can take care of her at my place. It's my weekend. I'll be at the library at 5. My jaw tightened. He wouldn't back down. I stared at the kids in the living room, sitting too quietly in front of the TV, and my mind went back to that hallway, to the judge brushing aside my concerns because there was insufficient evidence to deny him shared custody. At 4:30, I made a decision. I turned off my phone. I didn't tell the kids what time it was. I didn't mention the library, the parking lot, the exchange. Instead, I ordered pizza, put on a movie, and told myself I was protecting them. Protecting them from confusion, from instability, from a man who would never love them the way I did. Part of me knew I was crossing a line. I had sat in that courtroom and heard the judge say, "Both parties are expected to comply with this order." I knew that ignoring it could have consequences. But in that moment, those consequences felt far away and theoretical compared to the immediate terror of watching my kids drive off with Ryan. Later that night, I turned my phone back on for a second. Dozens of missed calls. Messages: "Where are you?" "I'm at the library." "Are you okay?" "This is a court order, Claire." I stared at the screen, felt my throat close, then turned it off again. Saturday and Sunday blurred together. Every time my mind whispered, "You should at least answer," another voice answered, "He'll talk you into something. He always does." I told myself this was temporary, that I'd figure it out, that I'd find some way to go back to court and explain why shared custody was wrong. I didn't let myself think about how it looked from the outside, a mother unilaterally deciding that the order no longer applied to her. I watched Emma and Jacob play on the living room floor, their laughter echoing in the small house, and I clung to one idea like a life raft: as long as they were with me, they were safe. The rest, I told myself, would have to be sorted out later. Monday morning, the illusion that I could keep everything contained started to crack. My phone, which I had turned on out of sheer guilt, lit up with a message from an unknown number. "This is Officer Daniels with the local police department. Please contact us regarding a welfare check request involving your children." My stomach dropped. I reread the message 3 times. A welfare check. Ryan had gone to the police. For a moment, I was offended. How dare he? As if I were some negligent stranger instead of their mother. But beneath the anger, there was a sharp stab of fear. Welfare checks meant records. Reports. Documentation. Words that could end up back in front of the same judge who had already chosen not to believe my fears. An hour later, there was a knock at the door. Firm. Rhythmic. Official. Emma looked up from the dining table where she was drawing. "Mom, who is it?" "Probably a delivery," I lied, my voice too high. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and walked to the door, forcing my face into something neutral. When I opened it, 2 uniformed officers stood on the porch, hands folded in front of them. "Miss Thompson," one of them asked. "Yes. We're officers from the local department. We received a request for a welfare check on Emma and Jacob Thompson. Are they home?" His tone was calm, almost gentle, but his presence made my heart race. My first instinct was to bristle. "Is this because of Ryan?" I asked. "He's exaggerating. He's trying to make me look bad." "We're not here to take sides," the other officer said. "We just need to make sure the children are safe and well, and document that we've done so. May we come in and speak with them briefly?" Legally, I knew I could make this difficult. But I also knew that refusing to cooperate would look much worse. So I stepped aside. "They're here. They're fine." The officers walked in. The house was tidy enough, dishes drying on the rack, toys in a basket, school backpacks by the door. Emma's eyes widened when she saw the uniforms. Jacob, clutching his toy dinosaur, froze. "Hi there," one officer said, crouching down to their level. "You must be Emma and Jacob. We're just here to check in and see how you're doing. Is that okay?" They nodded, unsure. They asked simple questions. "Do you feel safe here? Do you have enough to eat? Do you go to school? Do you know your dad? When was the last time you saw him?" Each question felt like a tiny accusation, even though I knew, logically, they were routine. I hovered nearby, arms crossed, answering when the kids looked at me for help. "Did anyone tell you that your dad is dangerous or that you shouldn't see him?" one officer asked. The air in the room thickened. Emma shifted in her chair, eyes flicking to me for a split second. "Mommy says." "Daddy lies," she said carefully. "She says he doesn't always take care of us right." The officer didn't react much, but he wrote something in his notebook. I felt heat crawl up my neck. I wanted to jump in, to say, "Because it's true," to list every time Ryan had been careless, every moment he made me feel like the only adult in the room. But all I managed was, "I've just been honest with them." The questions continued. "Did your dad come to see you this weekend? Did you go somewhere on Friday?" Emma shook her head. Jacob shrugged. They weren't lying. From their perspective, nothing unusual had happened. Ryan had just vanished from the schedule. When the officers finished, they asked me to step aside for a moment. We moved toward the hallway, just out of the kids' earshot. "Miss Thompson," one started, "the children appear physically safe. The home is stable, and they seem comfortable with you. That part is good. But we do have to document that your ex-spouse has a court-ordered visitation schedule, and he reports that he was denied access this weekend." "I was protecting them," I said quickly. "Emma was sick." "They're not ready. The court doesn't see what I see. He's not as stable as he pretends." "I understand this is emotional," he replied, still calm. "But if there's a valid court order in place, the expectation is that both parents follow it unless a new order changes that. Our report will reflect that the kids are safe, but also that the visitation didn't happen and that the children repeated some negative statements about their father that may indicate they're being influenced. That's not for us to judge, but the court may look at it closely." His words hit like cold water. Influenced. Didn't happen. Court may look at it. It was the moment I realized that in trying so hard to protect my children my way, I had stepped into territory the system took very seriously, and not in the way I wanted. They thanked me for my time, said they would file their report, and left. I closed the door slowly, then leaned my forehead against it, listening to Emma and Jacob whispering in the other room. The house was quiet again, but it no longer felt like a safe fortress. It felt like a place under observation. 2 weeks later, I sat in the same courtroom, at the same wooden table, hands clasped so tightly they hurt. Ryan was on the other side, his lawyer flipping through a folder. My own attorney leaned toward me and whispered, "The police report is going to be important today. Just stay calm and answer honestly." The judge entered, and everyone stood. The ritual felt familiar now, but it didn't make it any easier. After the preliminaries, Ryan's lawyer presented the documents: the original custody order, a log of the missed visitation, screenshots of messages he had sent, and finally, the welfare check report. My chest tightened as the judge read it silently. There it was in black and white: children appear physically safe. That part was a relief. But then the next lines: father reports mother denied court-ordered visitation. Children made statements suggesting they have been told negative things about their father. "Ms. Thompson," the judge said, looking directly at me, "there is a court order in place granting shared custody and specific parenting time to Mr. Harris. Why did the visitation not occur as ordered?" I swallowed. "Your Honor, I was worried about their emotional safety. Emma was having stomachaches. She was anxious. I didn't feel it was in their best interest to go that weekend." "If you believe there was a change in circumstances or new concerns," the judge replied, "the appropriate course would have been to file a motion and return to this court. Unilaterally deciding not to follow the order is not acceptable." "I was going to," I said, hearing the desperation in my own voice. I needed time. He's not the father he pretends to be here. He's careless. He lies. I was protecting them." Ryan's attorney spoke next. "Your Honor, my client has complied with every part of this order. He showed up at the designated time and place. He contacted Ms. Thompson multiple times with no response. Then, out of concern, he went to the police to request a welfare check. He has not tried to keep the children from her. She, however, has decided on her own that the order no longer applies to her." I wanted to scream that it wasn't like that everything I did came from fear and love, not spite. But as they talked, I could hear how it sounded. On paper, it didn't matter that I had been the one who packed every lunch, attended every doctor's appointment, soothed every nightmare. What mattered was that there was an order, and I had broken it. The judge sighed, eyes moving between us. "The court takes very seriously any attempt by one parent to interfere with the other parent's time with the children, absent concrete evidence of danger. Additionally, encouraging the children to view the other parent as unloving or unsafe without basis can be considered harmful to their relationship and contrary to their best interests." My stomach twisted. Those were my words they were talking about, the late-night comments, the emotional confessions I thought were just between me and my kids. Hearing them framed as harmful made me feel like the ground had shifted under my feet. Given the police report, the missed visitation, and Ms. Thompson's statements today, the judge continued, the court is modifying the custody arrangement. Mr. Harris will be granted more structured parenting time, including make-up time for the weekend he lost. Ms. Thompson is ordered to comply fully with the schedule. Continued violations, or continued efforts to undermine the children's relationship with their father, may result in further changes, including potential changes in primary residence. The words hit like a physical blow. More time with him. Less control for me. And a warning hanging over my head like a storm cloud: heap this up, and you could lose even more. When the hearing ended, we walked out of the courtroom again, but this time I didn't stop in the hallway. I didn't look at Ryan. I just kept walking, the new order clutched in my hand. Outside, on the courthouse steps, the reality finally sank in. That moment when the police knocked on my door, when I thought I was just defending my kids from a man I no longer trusted, had become the moment everything started to turn against me. It wasn't that the system suddenly decided he was perfect. It was that, in the eyes of the law, I had crossed from protective into obstructive. I had once stood in that hallway and told him, "You will never see your kids again." It had felt like a promise, a declaration of how far I was willing to go. But in the end, it wasn't my threat that decided anything. It was the paper I had tried to ignore, the knock on the door I hadn't expected, and the truth that came out when people who weren't on my side, or his, started writing everything down.